wanna join the adventures of the Magical Space Pussycats, exploring bookish horizons and having in-depth lady chats. Doobie-doobie-doop-doo.
Welcome back, Magical Space Pussycats. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Today on the episode, we are going to be talking about some convention wrap-up. So we will be talking about Nine Worlds Convention, as well as this year's Worldcon and the Hugo Awards. Then we will be talking about Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, the first book in the Dragon Riders of Pern series. And then we will be mentioning what's kind of coming up on the calendar and what to look forward to in the future. My name is Chelsea, also known as the Reading Outlaw on YouTube, and I am coming at you guys today with two very lovely ladies who will now introduce themselves.
Okay, so my name is Kaitlin, and I am coming to you guys from England, and my channel on YouTube is Kitty G.
And I'm Elizabeth, also known as Books and Pieces on YouTube, and I'm in Wales.
All right, cool. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah. I'm good.
All right. It feels rusty. It feels like it's been more than a month since we've done this.
It's been a while.
Starting all over
again.
It's
been a while.
Let's just get right into it. How was Nine Worlds?
Nine Worlds was fabulous. I loved it. It was my second Nine Worlds, Caitlin's first Nine Worlds. So do you want to do some first impressions, Kaitlin? Because I know it was all very
Yeah,
for you.
I can do that. It was only the second con I'd been to, and it was so different from the one I'd been to previously because it was so much more inclusive and welcoming. And I actually did a video talking about it because it was so different to the first one I'd been to, with like the inclusivity and the amount of chats and panels that they had about that side of things was just so welcoming. And I think it was one of the most welcoming places I've ever been, let alone conventions. So that was really, really nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. I liked your video. I liked hearing about I really liked the social interaction.
Yeah, that was what really impressed me, was hearing about all of that, because I think Elizabeth had mentioned it to me before, but until you get there and you see it and you're like, oh wow, that actually is a really good idea for a system.
For those who don't know, when you go to Nine Worlds and you go to registration, you pick up your name badge and then you move on to the next table, and there's badges where you can select your preferred pronoun, and then also badges for your levels of social interaction. So you can put a colour filter over your name badge, and you have a choice of a red colour filter, which means please don't talk to me unless it's an emergency. A yellow filter, which is please only talk to me if you already know me or it's an emergency. And then a blue-purple filter, which is please do approach me, I'm shy, I would welcome a conversation. And they also have shapes on them for those who don't see so well in colour, so that you can identify them. And it's a really great way of knowing, some people just don't deal well with that sort of long social interaction thing that happens at a con, because it can be very overwhelming. And it's just such a useful tool to have.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And then they've also got the pronoun thing too, so you can choose what pronoun you want, which is also really great.
Well, and that was some of the stuff I was kind of expecting to see at Worldcon and then didn't. And I think that's just the difference between a slightly bigger and slightly smaller convention, is kind of having the time and the manpower and the ability to do some of that. But yeah, there wasn't any of that at the Hugo, or at Worldcon, not just at the Hugos, but at Worldcon. So I didn't see much of that. So I was glad to see in the Nine Worlds video that you guys had it going on.
Yeah. Well, it's something that's been built into Nine Worlds from the beginning. They designed it. It's a very new convention. I think that was only its 4th or 5th year. And so that was something they've worked on and improving. Like the way they did it this year with the colour filters was different than the way they did last year. So they've improved on it. And I think it's something that maybe is going to be introduced more. I imagine the Helsinki crew are a bit more up on it than
That's probably
some of the past
a fair
ones.
call.
The Helsinki Worldcon 75 seem to be very, very focused on making this a very inclusive Worldcon. So I'm quite excited to see what they're going to be doing with that level of stuff. It was also interesting. I was listening to the presenters talk in one of the panels, and they were also given instructions about making sure that the panels and audience interaction was as inclusive as possible. So they have a set of instructions given to them before they go in with make sure you repeat questions into the microphones, not to refer to people who are, you're saying, you know, person in the red top, not gendered thing.
Man
in the
or
red
woman,
top.
yeah.
Not lady or gentleman or whatever. Because no assumptions. It was very much a like, don't make assumptions about people space, which was very interesting to see.
Yeah. So speaking of, did you guys hit any good panels, or what were the good panels? What were your favorite ones that you guys got to go to?
I think my favourite one, which kind of surprised me a little bit, was the Chinese science fiction and fantasy one that we went to, because there was a discussion all about how Chinese science fiction and fantasy is starting to come over here, but, you know, it's very small scale at the moment, and sort of what it is like in China, what people consider it to be like over there, and how different it is, but also how similar it is, because they've taken a lot of influence from, like, Western writers as well. So it was a really interesting discussion. There was one lady who was doing the discussion. I'll link her Twitter and stuff down below, because she's got a website as well where she's got some translated pieces, so if you want to go and read them, you can. But she was really, really good at the discussion, and she just made me want to read more and more Chinese science fiction. And she was really nice at the end and said, like, thank you for tweeting, guys, because, we were all about that. It was just really interesting.
Yeah, it was an absolutely fascinating panel. And what, you know, the emphasis that came down was how big the science fiction field is in China. Like, over here, what constitutes a highly selling book compared to what constitutes that in China. Oh my god. And they still have huge distribution for short fiction magazines, like print magazines, as well as the online. But like, she was talking about one, and it's I can't even remember what it was, but it was like 1 million or something. It was so ridiculous. My brain was just like, I'm sorry, what? It might have been like 100,000, but it might have been 1 million. Like, a month, people subscribing to this magazine, and I was just like, these numbers do not compute with...
Very impressive figures. But yeah, she was basically saying, and the whole talk was sort of leading up to, more people need to be focused on saying they want it over here. Yeah. Because if that's what people are saying, then it will happen. So I'm definitely going to be looking out for more translated Chinese science fiction.
Absolutely.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Very cool.
Now,
excuse me.
Yes, now it's your turn. Tell us about the big one. The one.
Oh, man, the big one. It was good. It was a lot. It was my first convention ever of any kind.
Jump in at the deep end.
Yeah. Sink or swim, guys. Sink or swim. So I decided to go big or not go home. But it was a lot. I had a lot of fun. But I think I've definitely also learned, it was a good learning experience. I think for me, about 3 days of convention might be about the limit. We got to Sunday after Wednesday through Saturday, and I was tapped. It was a combination of having to talk to people. Probably could have used one of those red name tag filters, coupled with a lot being really starstruck. It was very surreal to be with some of the big names of the field and just be like hanging out getting pizza, and like there's Ada Palmer talking to George R. R. Martin standing next to like Pat Cadigan, and I'm just over here with like pizza grease on my face being like, please don't look at me, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. But at the same time, it was so... I've never been in one combined fan space like that. And it was so cool and so inspiring to see people from babies to fans up into their like 60s and 70s still all getting together to be huge like fan dorks. So
oh my god,
yeah, it was really cool. I had a really great time. And of course, I got to see a lot of fellow BookTube personalities. So Bree was there, and Rachel from Colonnati was there, and Brock was there.
That sounds
so getting to see everyone in person was really, really cool. That was probably, it was fun. That and getting to look with my eyes into the face of Becky Chambers.
Oh my god.
And to
you
see
tweeted about that, and I was just like, I would
Oh my God, it was so good. Like, she had her autographing and her signing all in the same day, and that was the same day I also saw her on a panel. So I kind of felt like by the end of the day that I was just like chasing her around this huge convention center being like, Becky Chambers, please be my best friend. But she's really sweet. She's very, very sweet. And with the exception of a short fiction panel gone awry, everyone at the convention was really awesome. So it was definitely a really cool experience.
Yeah, there's always one panel that will surprise you and do things that you're not quite so happy about.
Oh man, it was crazy. It was a basically supposed to be a panel about how short fiction is having a really like a little mini renaissance right now. Kind of going back to what you were saying about the Chinese short fiction that's coming out.
Yeah.
In general, it's just kind of having a moment right now. But the whole thing was hijacked by some puppy nonsense. The moderator of the panel started talking about how people are clutching their pearls and people just need to calm down and social justice warriors just need to take a breath. And oh my God, it was so crazy.
Did you just get up and walk out?
Oh my God, I just literally was like eyes wide. I was like, I can't believe that this guy is in this room. Like, I feel like it's one of those things where like you put out that idea, and if you don't immediately get a room full of people being like, yeah, that's so awesome, you back off and you're like, just kidding. I'm not going to go on a rant about social justice warriors in this room with these people.
Oh dear. Oh,
Never
but
mind.
you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
There's always one.
there is always one. We
There's
had
always
one that was slightly less dramatic, but yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I did like those live tweets that came out as you guys were in that panel.
Yeah.
I thought it was very entertaining.
We are a little ragey every now and then
Oh my goodness.
when something upsets us.
Yeah,
But it was fun. It was really fun to tweet out
Yeah,
all this stuff.
it
as
was
well.
fantastic.
I felt like I was a little bit at Worldcon when people were tweeting about it. It's really nice.
it's lovely to
put it out there.
get the
Yeah.
news and find out and talk to people about what's happening, even if you can't be there.
Yeah.
And also, I find, like, when we were at Nine Worlds, sometimes you would go to one panel and I would go to another, or other friends I knew there would be in different panels. And it means you can catch up with what's happening. Like, you can attend all the different panels without attending them, because it's impossible to do conventions without time turners, but unfortunately they haven't been invented yet.
Oh yeah, and we did that quite a bit
shame.
too. The separate and then recombine to kind of share notes and things on
Yeah.
what everyone saw. But yeah,
Way.
Yeah.
and then of course Saturday the Hugos,
The Hugos.
the
I
big
was
rockets.
So
Dude, they
nervous
look
about
so
that.
much like penises. It is
Oh my God, I know.
crazy. They had a display of like past Hugo
Yes.
statues, and it was just a row of big shiny dicks. And
Honestly,
I was like, oh my
it
God,
looks
it's
so much
ridiculous.
like walking into a sex shop. Like,
It's crazy.
yeah, they had this huge display when I was at the London World Con in 2014, and I was just like, oh my God, this is inappropriate. Like,
It's just,
yeah.
oh, Hugo.
Oh, sci-fi.
But yeah, being at the Hugos was like the first awards ceremony I've ever gone to that wasn't like my high school theater club senior awards day banquet or whatever.
And isn't it fantastic?
It was so good. It was so good. Pat Cadigan tore it up. She did a great job.
She
She's
was hilarious.
sassy old lady, so she was killing it, doing her announcer gig for the Hugos. And then
I did not expect to be awake for it because it was on at like 3 a.m. our time, but I was for some reason, yet again, for the second year in a row, up at some ungodly
I was gonna say,
hour.
last year I think that happened to you too.
I know. Last year I woke up early. This year I was still up late. And
Very
so I was like,
convenient.
well, why not?
well, why not? Since we're here. So it's probably all of you guys who are listening have seen or can go find out.
Yeah.
The winners are up, and I was thrilled. I was super excited. Everybody that I wanted to see win actually won, which is always nice. And the categories deserving to be shut out with the no award were shut out accordingly.
Yeah. I was so happy with it this year because last year it was great. There were loads of no awards and it was justified, and it felt like a win, but it would have been sad to have that many no awards happen again, and it didn't happen. There were so many positive things that came out of it, like great writers and great works. Every category I felt like was justifiably won by a really good work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like you're saying, Elizabeth, as opposed to last year where I feel like everything, and I feel like last year needed to happen the way it happened, but it was still a little disheartening to watch and to go back and read the awards list and see so many no awards being awarded, as opposed to this year where I feel like there were the two categories that took no award were the exact two that needed to have no award.
And they did nothing in there. It wasn't even just this was a list presented by puppies. It was like, this was a ridiculous list of crap.
Yeah. Like, shockingly enough, Safe Spaces Rape Room and Space Raptor Butt Invasion did not. Although getting to hear Ellen Datlow say Space Raptor Butt Invasion out loud was also kind of a highlight of the night. That was, I
gotta say,
cool.
Chuck Tingle's been a bit of a legend, like, over the Hugo Award period.
Yeah.
He's pretty fabulous.
One of the best was, because nobody really knows who Chuck Tingle is, and so one of the best ribbons you could get at this year's Worldcon was just one that said, "I am Chuck Tingle." So you would get like dozens of people walking around with this little ribbon on their name tag that just said, "I am Chuck Tingle" down at the bottom. It was very Fight Club. It was very I am Jack's bruised elbow. And then also, my favorite part of the whole night was when, because Neil Gaiman won for best graphic work,
for the
best
Sandman.
graphic story, which nobody is surprised by because it's the Sandman. And of course, Neil Gaiman wasn't there because he's Neil Gaiman. But his speech was read out loud, and he laid such the smackdown on the puppy. Like, the whole room literally was like, "Oh, burn!" Like, ooh, ah. So he was like, "I thought about pulling it because this is associated with a bunch of like hapless losers and ineffectual like pedants, but I didn't want to disgrace everyone else who did the work on it, so I don't want anything to do with those other people, but I still want my thing to win the award." And I was just like, oh my God, Neil Gaiman, you're the best. You're the greatest.
Yeah, it was pretty fabulous.
So, Binti, the 5th season, Folding Beijing, Sandman, The Martian. Y'all can go look up the winner, the whole winners short list, but needless to say, it was some very, very good stuff. So.
Yeah, it was very good.
Good stuff.
Good job, Hugo's 2016.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
We approve.
Yep. And while I won't be going to Helsinki, I did go ahead and buy my supporting ticket for next year. So I'll get it. I'll get to vote and do all of that. And then it's going to, I think it's San Jose, California. And then after that is Dublin.
Maybe.
So,
technically it's maybe Dublin. But it's like, it's so Dublin.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, as of right now, Dublin is like uncontested. Nobody
is it?
competing
They've given
against
up.
Dublin. Yeah, they've given up. So
it's Dublin.
That's, fingers crossed it's Dublin.
Yay, nearby. Yay.
That'll be good.
Yes.
Yep.
We are ready to go to Helsinki, aren't we?
Yeah, both of us are hoping to go to Helsinki, so that should be fun.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, Helsinki looks. Plus, they're giving you guys free public transportation.
Yeah. The whole city.
They're advertising it at Worldcon. They were like, if you go to Helsinki, you can ride the Helsinki buses all day for free.
Delightful.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Now all I have to do is get to Helsinki.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right.
So
well.
basically, the cons were really good.
Yes, conventions are fabulous. That's our
amazing.
conclusion.
Yeah.
And
so,
shall we move on and discuss?
Yeah. Shall we move on to some things that aren't so fabulous?
Yes.
That weren't quite so great.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So let's talk about Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. That was this month's pick from the Lady Vaults, and Anne McCaffrey is bit of a legend in the sci-fi and fantasy world. Yeah. She's been writing since the 60s, until she died, basically. Did she die? Am I making that up? I've done
I
that
will
before.
verify, but I'm like 95% sure that she is deceased.
She
Although
is.
apologize,
She is.
Anne McCaffrey, if you are
2011.
not. Yes, 2011.
Okay,
She passed
that's
away in
okay.
2000.
I thought I hadn't made that up. Yes, so she was writing for a long, long time. Dragon Riders of Pern was her first book in the Dragonflight was the first book in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, although it was originally 2 short stories or novellas pushed together into one book to turn them into one sort of novel. Or you'd barely call it a novel now. It was only like
barely.
200 pages.
Yeah.
Yes, so let's do a quick overview of the plot and then talk about what we thought of that, and then try and go through it with some structure. We'll try and be good, people, so you can follow along with us.
We will try. All right, who wants to do our synopsis?
I can give it a go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So this was supposed to be our fantasy pick. It actually seems to be quite a lot of a science fiction meets fantasy kind of combo, which is not a bad thing. Basically, we are on this world, which is called Pern, and it's another planet. And on this world, they have always had dragon riders and dragons on this world. And over the last couple of 100 years, the dragon riders have sort of gone into decline a little bit. The dragons have gone into decline a little bit. And we haven't seen as much of them as we used to, because the enemy that they have been facing has kind of died down as well. And so we follow a young girl called Lessa, who comes from a village sort of steadhold type place. Her family has been killed when she was a very young child, and she's in hiding, as typically they are, out for a revenge quest. So she is hoping to get back her family holdings. But of course, when the dragon riders come to town, things change, and she doesn't necessarily end up doing what she always thought she would do.
Yes, instead she is swept off to become the dragon queen, or whatever it is. Dragon lady, dragon woman.
The werewoman.
Werewoman. We're a werewoman.
There is only one woman who rides a dragon, and she rides the queen dragon, and yes, she is chosen to be that person because she can talk to the dragon. The dragon picks her, basically, and they can talk telepathically. And and then
as you do with
much
your
adventure happens. The enemy that the dragons have been made to fight is like an alien fungus, from what I could gather. They call them the threads.
Okay, I was going to ask you what that is.
Yeah, as far as I could tell, it's a fungus
was hard to understand.
Yeah, they explain
Like
it in a space way that there is a planet, a mini planet that orbits in a funny ellipsis around this world, and when they come close, which is once every 200 years or close enough, these spores will come down and they attempt to populate the planet because they feed on organic matter.
and that's why
But the dragons, the breath that the dragons can breathe out and will burn this fungus out and keep it off from destroying the land. So that's the point of it. And the dragons were actually genetically created by humans who landed on this planet from space, but the original, the people who settled and colonized thousands and thousands of years ago were left by the spacefaring race and have forgotten all of that. So it's like given a sci-fi frame and structure, but then you move straight into a purely fantasy world of dragons and stuff, like, because the technology and the space knowledge has been lost completely. It's all gone into ballads and poetry.
so it's very medieval. It's very
It takes that traditional fantasy setting of feudal Europe and runs with it in interesting directions.
Very
interesting is having huge quote marks around it.
All the scare quotes in the world.
So that's the plot. What did we think about that sci-fi framing of fantasy?
I liked it. I thought it was an interesting setup for a story that could have been really good but wasn't. That's what I thought.
Best synopsis ever.
I thought it was going to be really good, and then it wasn't. It just really wasn't.
Yeah.
I just feel like
Okay.
I feel like that's like a drop the mic and walk away. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. how
conclusion.
else to say it. Kaitlin nailed it pretty well.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it can be hard to do like the sci-fi fantasy kind of mashup where you're not really firmly in either camp, but I think this is one of the better ways to do it. I'm not saying the book was good. I won't go so far as to say that the book
there
was
were
good.
elements of the book that were good. We'll get to why it wasn't good
Yeah,
as
there
we
were some good
continue.
moments,
We'll
definitely
get
good.
there.
But that element was very interesting. I have
But
seen
on
it.
the whole, for structure, I thought that the sci-fi fantasy it played well. It was believable. I thought it worked with the context and stuff. So
Yeah, I thought what was so good about it was it gave a reason for dragons existing. Like, because
Yeah.
so many fantasy books, they're just like, and dragons. And you're like, yeah, but like evolution.
yeah, but no, but dragons.
Yeah, and then the answer is, yeah, but dragons. And you're like, okay, but so fine. Like, because dragons do trump all arguments.
true,
But
that
this
is
one was
true.
like, no, science, dragons. And you're like, oh, cool, okay.
Really, just made me want to get to the point where we can genetically engineer
Yes,
dragons.
let's do that. Let's do that
Yeah.
now.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. So that was an interesting framing point. Now, the characters. So we have Lessa, who is our heroine, and she is gutsy and has been trodden down, but she was out for revenge, and then she's like raised up as the weir woman, and then she gets together with
Flar.
Flar, and then
Many apostrophes in these names.
who is like the dragon man, and he's a weir man. There are many of them. They're like soldiers protecting the planet, obviously, and then there are many other dragon men. And yeah, so what about other characters? There were various ones. What did we think about them, their relationship to the dragons? And the dragons themselves, of course, have character.
Yeah.
Because they could talk in the heads and stuff.
I think my favourite character besides Lessa was actually the weird beast that we meet at the very beginning.
Oh.
Which sounds a bit weird,
the
but like
Watchware.
that was the only moment of the whole thing that I was like actually sad.
Yeah.
He was like,
So-
he was like a guard dog, and he was very loyal.
But he's a
Yeah, he was
dragon.
just
He's
really
a
cute
guard
and, like,
dragon. He's so
Not quite a
cute.
dragon, but he's kind of a dragon, and there's a really emotional
And he's like
moment with him.
blind and old, and he just wants to protect people. He's like the most
Lovely.
adorable dragon.
What does it come to that this whole book, the character that we most liked was like the
Exactly.
guard dog that dies in chapter 2?
I was gonna say the were-dragon is also on pages, like the first like 5 pages. He's there for literally like 10
he
seconds,
doesn't
and then
last
he's
very
there.
long,
He's gone.
sadly, which I was really
Okay.
sad about. But yeah, he's my favourite.
Yeah.
I also like the dragons themselves, I have to
Yeah.
admit. Like, I think a lot of them were pretty interesting to read about.
Yeah.
And the relationship that they had with the humans who were their sort of companion, I really liked that.
Yeah.
that.
And the societal structure that came out of these characters and how they sort of were forced to interact. I mean, we're starting to tread on the toes of why this book is so bad. Now, would anyone care to begin that?
Okay,
Where
yeah,
do you
I'll go
begin?
there.
Go
Okay,
on,
okay.
Chelsea, you
All
take
right,
this.
So here's the thing, guys. There is so much rape in this book. It is. It would. Here, okay. Like, you can see I'm trying to find, like,
Yeah.
the way to go
This
with this without just, like,
society-
yelling into
yeah,
the microphone.
Yeah.
This is one of those books that they often are like, oh, you're just starting out reading in this new genre? Here, try The Dragon Riders of Pern because it's short. If I were a child and someone handed me this
Yeah.
book, I would be, like, ruined. Like,
Oh my
destroyed.
God. Yeah.
Like, this book is full of so much, like, and not just, like, rape, but gender violence. It is so clearly a book of its time
Ugh.
that it just got under my skin in, like, the worst.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
bad.
It reminded me. It's basically it's put forward on that pseudo medieval feudal European society thing that is criticized in so much traditional fantasy. People use it to justify sexism and racism and the lack of like diverse characters in so much stuff when actually historically it's very inaccurate. And so the structure of like men over women in the society is so bad, and it's so inbuilt and ingrained into the way the characters interact that it's horrendous. Like Chelsea said, there's so much rape, there is violence against women, and women against women, which bugged me even more. And oh my god, there was just so much.
Well, and I think that comes from the structure.
Not a nice reading experience.
Yeah.
Like,
it really was.
It was really fun up until that point. I was enjoying it, and I was having a good time, like, seeing the adventures, and then this wham rape comes out, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, so what happens is that the dragons...
Is there any reason?
Yeah, the dragons mate, and then... because they're, like, psychically connected to their humans, the humans kind of sort of want to hook up, but it very much did not feel like Lessa was into it. No, it was not written that way.
She was not into that.
And then
she didn't get any preparation for that either, which really annoyed me, because this whole time they're saying, like, you know, the dragons need to mate, we need more baby dragons for this world, and then, you know, everyone knows it's going to happen, and so, like, could they not have said, by the way, when your dragon mates, you might get a little bit turned on and want to have sex with people.
Because she was kept isolated from pretty much all the other women except servants who were not really talking to her. Like, she's educated by these old men, and then... just there when the dragons mate. And what shocked me was they go to bed and he, like, takes her, rapes her. But then it continues as a relationship. Like, this is completely normal. Like, they're dragons, they've done it. Normal. The end. The dragon's gonna go have her dragon eggs or whatever. Yeah. There was no reason given for this to continue as a relationship. Like, there wasn't even any, like, and the emotions stayed strongly. It was just like, you have shagged, thus you must be married and stay together forever. In that horrendous, old-fashioned, like, you have now shagged, so you are ruined and you will be married.
Exactly. It goes on and on, doesn't it? Like, it doesn't get better at any point. It just keeps getting worse. And there is a point in the book where Lessa is so terrified of this guy that she's with, I say with very loosely, that she actually can't even face him because she knows he's going to abuse her. And so she's very much having a panic attack right in the middle of the book about going to face this guy.
That really disturbed me because it was presented as though, like, when she got back, he hugs her, and so it was okay, and she loves him. She loves him. Oh my god, I can't stop using finger quotes in this. Loves
him. No love.
But I actually highlighted this before we got up because it really freaked me out. Because it
was
disturbing. Really horrible.
And I mean, reading it, like Chelsea said, as a young child would not be good. Like, I don't know why this is pitched to young children. I just think it's not appropriate.
No.
Well, and
should come with a warning.
Yeah.
It's like she actually says, he will shake me and shake me. He always shakes me when I disobey him, but I was right. And it's just like, oh my god, she was right. She's literally saving the world, and she's the only one who has the ability and the knowledge and the idea of doing it, and she does it. But she's so afraid of him, and it's just like, oh my god.
Well, and it's because she's a broodmare. That's the discord that struck in me is the werewoman is supposed to be this kind of powerful female figure. She's the only woman who can own a dragon and have a dragon, and her dragon is the queen dragon. And so it's all of these things that on the surface sound like they should come with all this power and all of this kind of intrinsic support and empowerment and all of these things, but really it's just it's the gilded cage. It's a different way for them to be like, okay, well, now we're going to mount you whenever we need new children, and then also sit in this room, and you can't actually fly your dragon, and you can't really actually do anything but, like, sit here and be the were queen and also be at my
has to
command.
Like, nanny the dragon and like make sure the dragon is okay.
Yeah,
to me, to look after the dragon.
I mean, it's all just it's 1950s housewife. Like every time we say dragon, insert baby.
Yeah,
and instead of male dragon rider, insert like professional businessman husband, and it's basically it's like Mad Men, but with more rape and dragons. Like it's very you can tell that this is a book from the published in the 60s, probably written in the late 50s to early 60s.
And it's got that thing where it does have a female character lead. So it was like, oh yes, female author, female lead, isn't this wonderful? Like men could be like, yes, of course there are women in fantasy. But actually it's only that one woman who is allowed to be special until the very end when we meet like the other stuff.
The other ones.
Like she is the only woman who's allowed to be good and special and whatever. That like there is another woman who is, I said, kidnapped, brought to the dragons, whatever you want to say. Like she's brought into the Dragon Society as a potential werewoman, and the queen doesn't pick her, but she later becomes hooked up with another queen dragon. But she is criticised for being too sexual. They say she is like the green dragons, always looking to be shagged, basically. And it was like, it was so grim. And even Lessa herself criticises this woman. She is like structured in this thing that she is not proper, she's not doing it well. And then the previous werewoman who is she's fat, and thus, oh my god, you know, fat and unattractive equals like lazy, evil, like bad at your job. Like it was just the only way you can do your thing is to be pretty and do what the men tell you. You can rebel, but only in a minor way. If you're scared of your partner and do as he says, really, you can rebel, but only in a specific kind of way. And only whilst if you're hot whilst doing it.
Yeah. And even then, it's like the rebellion that we will allow you to have. Like, you can rebel in the ways that we have already sanctioned you being able to rebel.
You can rebel in a way that props up our society.
Yeah.
Rebel in a way that makes more of this dragon world. It was just, oh my god. But, do you know what really got me? Was that moment when they compared the other dragon queen lady to the green dragons, suddenly popped into my head. The green dragons are female dragons. So why are all the dragon riders men?
Duh.
Because the dragon queen has to have a female to mind bend with or whatever it is. Like, so why do the green dragons not have to? Because they're sterile, so they're not really women. Because
breathe,
women
so
who can't
count.
have babies aren't women.
Oh, so many problems.
God, it's so bad. I feel like the more layers we dig back, the worse this book gets.
Oh my god.
So bad.
Oh my god.
And that's the thing. It's like you were talking about earlier, Elizabeth. It's like the female v female thing. Like, here's Lessa, and she's never met the were queen who came before her, but all she's been told by these men who have kidnapped and raped and subjugated her
my God.
is that this other woman was like fat and gross and ugly and a really bad queen. So without even stopping to think like, hey, maybe these kidnapping rapists like aren't being the most like objective human beings.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I can tell that old queen, that bitch was definitely fat and she was definitely gross and bad at her job. I'm so glad I, Lessa, am here to be like plucky female heroine girl and make everything all better for the dragons. And I was just like, no, Lessa, you're like, doing it wrong. Like,
so bitchy.
There's feminism and you're doing it wrong.
Underhanded and nasty.
Oh.
Yeah. So we had problems with this book.
Plus, like,
major
Flar.
problems.
The names.
And Fnar
the names
and
were
Rhaegar.
fantastic.
Flar and Flar.
Yeah.
Flar.
I said this on Twitter and I was talking about it to these guys before we started, that it's very much this. I did read this as a kid. I managed to come out of it relatively mentally unscarred, apparently. And
I feel like kids might just not know what's going on.
No, you
probably.
don't. But it highly inspired me when I was like writing as a teenager. Everything I wrote like had apostrophes in the names. Like more apostrophes equals more fantasy, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, from reading Wheel of Time and reading things like Teleran Riod, which does have about 3 apostrophes in it, I can definitely say that is exactly how fantasy works.
Basically. The more consonants you can jam together with apostrophes between them, the higher fantasy score you get.
Or X's.
100.
If you have X's or Z's in the name, I feel like that's also, maybe Q's.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Points.
But
all the complicated things.
So I find it, so the last thing I do want to talk about before we kind of move towards wrapping it up is, and we touched on it a little bit, but like feminist, not feminist? How do we feel about including something so rapey in the Lady Vaults. Where are we at with that?
Do you know, it's so easy to go, it was of its time. But do you know what came out the year after? The Left Hand of Darkness.
Yeah.
A year later.
That's true.
And Joanna Russ was alive and
very...
writing at this time.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything near what it could have been. And I don't know how she would have published it if she'd done things differently, because I'm not sure what that was like in the publishing world. But I think for her own peace of mind, maybe it would have been nicer to have a little less on the rapey.
Do you think she could get it published today? Like, if you think if baby Anne McCaffrey took this Dragon Raiders to the publishing house, you think they'd still publish it?
Yes, but not mainstream publishers.
I think so.
Not the ones that we all like read or work with today. Like, it would have to go to something.
Oh, that's fair.
Like a
Castelia House.
Yeah, Castelia House would probably publish it.
I'm sorry, Anne McCaffrey. I don't want to impugn your memory by getting you.
Because there were positives about this book. You know, there were like
good things.
When you weren't freaking out about the horrendous rape and societal structures, like, it was a fun read. Once I got past, like, because the first few pages, I have to say, the writing is atrocious.
Oh, it's so confusing. It's so bad.
The hills are literally breasts. Everything is breasts.
Old breasts.
So many breasts.
Yeah, but it was fun. Once you got into it, it was very Pulp Fiction, but it felt like it was.
I read it aloud.
Really?
Yeah, Shane and I started reading this aloud because we were just chilling, and I was like, oh, I really need to start this book so that I can do it for the Magical Space Pussycats. So I was like, oh, can I just read it to you so that, like, I actually get motivated?
Oh my God.
And reading out about the breast hills was Shane's bit, and he was like, what the hell are you reading? So that was really amusing for me when we got there.
When I was learning about the history of sci-fi publishing and fantasy publishing, like, they talk about, like, the changes that happened in the 60s and 70s, the new wave and like wave. Literary styles of writing coming in and being fought off, and there were huge, like, ructions at the time. And this very much feels like the older generations. This is the Pulp Fiction that was being, you know, this is John W. Campbell. This is his work through and through. I mean, they even have Telepathy, which is very much his jam, like... These are the things that type of magazine and that type of stuff, like, this is traditional old stuff, but I would never, like, having a woman in it could have, you almost want to say, yes, you know, that would have been brave and whatever, but I'm not sure it was that brave to put her in that situation.
Yeah, I think it was cowardly.
Yeah.
I think there was so much that she could have done that she didn't, and I just feel disappointed by it. And I don't know if it's one of those series where everyone's like, oh, but the books get better and stuff like that. Fine. And maybe it does get more feminist over time when she gets a bit more confident. But I just think, you know...
Yeah, and there are more women.
And be good from the start.
Yeah.
And this is not a great start.
It almost feels like a novelty. Yeah. Like, when it was published, it would have been like, oh... It's a dragon book, but it's got a lady in it. But, like, don't worry. She's still doing lady things because we don't want to, like, offend your sensibilities. But, like, revolutionary new dragon book that has a lady in it. So, I don't know. I do think the dragons...
But there were men writing women in this type of role at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, this, if this had on the front, John Smith wrote this book, I would not be shocked. You know?
No.
I feel like it feels like that.
I feel like if I picked it up off the pile and it didn't have a cover on it or a title page, I would probably assume it had been written by a guy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's...
I think so.
So, interesting seeing
So there we go. So, that's second Lady Vault's pick. There you go, guys. From Sinners to whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah,
Dragonflight.
That was fun.
We've had some interesting books so far. Speaking of that, shall we tell them what our new book is going to be?
Yes, we're hoping it's going to be a little less weird.
Well, this one I have read, and so I will vouch for if the ship goes down.
So.
Yeah, so we've gone from 90s cyberpunk to 60s fantasy, and now what are we going to, Chelsea?
Now we are going to a little bit of Afrocentrism. Before it was a thing, we were going to do some Octavia Butler. Dun, 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 dun. Are we doing...
We're not
Kindred.
doing
Parable of the Sour, are we? Okay, yeah, we're doing Kindred. So we are going to do Kindred by Octavia Butler. You've probably heard Octavia Butler's name. She's not only a female from the Lady Vaults, she's a female person of color from the Lady Vaults. And I think we are planning on coming back in about a month.
Yes, we're going to just come back and talk all about this book. So we'll do our catch up and then wrap up this book. So if you are reading along with us, get reading Kindred.
Get to reading it, which will kind of move us into our closing it down and wrapping it up. We wanted to go ahead and say that we want to bring you guys the best possible piece of media that we can bring you guys. So because of that, we are going to switch the format up a little bit. We are going to stick with this new format. So we're only going to be doing one show a month, but we're going to be talking about what's new, what's going on, and then one whole book at a time. So you'll be able to read the book, have a whole month to read it, come back, listen to our discussion, and that'll give us enough time kind of in the interim to make sure that we are bringing you guys something that is edited and put together and polished and just really the thing that we want to bring you guys. So don't be alarmed if it seems like we're not back as frequently. All is according to plan, and we are just switching it to kind of a monthly format. So yeah, join us in a month with for Kindred by Octavia Butler. And should we finish with what we're reading? Should we tell everybody who's got what on the go?
Oh yeah, I'm excited by what I'm reading. I'm reading Nine Fox Gambit by Yoon Ha Lee.
Ooh,
and
so good.
Nice.
It's so good. Oh my god. It's giving me ancillary justice feels, and that is saying something, because
those are good feels.
Yeah, that is my favorite book ever. And
really,
this is so much like that. This is like it's got that same, it's playing with gender and personhood and like what it means to be an individual but not, and oh my god, it's so good. Yeah, it's about a woman who's a space captain in like the far future, but she has to be joined with like an undead ghost almost of an amazing military general who is a dude. So you have two people in one body, and her shadow doesn't match herself. And oh my god, cool. It's so cool.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's so good so far.
I look forward to your review,
oh my god.
and then I might get it myself.
I would say that one's on my pile, but my pile's huge, so that doesn't actually ever mean anything. What about you, Kaitlin?
I am actually between books at the moment, because I just finished reading Caraval yesterday, which doesn't come out till next year.
Yeah, you
but
were tweeting
loved
that.
it, like absolutely loved it. I wasn't expecting to, because it's pitched as like similar to the Night Circus, and I love the Night Circus.
Yeah,
and I was
it
like,
looks
you
really
cannot
pretty. I've
pitch it this way.
seen it. I've seen the arc and
got a
stuff. It's
lovely
really
cover.
pretty. Yeah,
It's really nice. So yeah, I just finished reading that, and it was kind of similar to the Night Circus, but way grittier and like less beautiful, and I like that a lot. So it's got like abuse and stuff in it, so maybe steer clear if you don't like that, but it's something that I think was handled really well. So that was good. And I think I'm going to be starting reading Frostblood, which I believe is by Ellie Blake, I think. I don't know anything about it. I've been sent it for review, but I'm going to be reading it with Eleanor, so we'll see how it goes.
oh, cool.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Well, I am just getting ready to start The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. So
that's a good one.
I've heard some... No, I have not heard any bad things. I've heard some people enjoy it more than they did the first one, and some prefer the first one. So
I think I preferred the first, but I think the second one is a good continuation.
I feel like it's going to be hard to beat the twist that takes place in the fifth season.
What I
that's
think,
a pretty solid plot twist. So second books can be a little tricky after that. But I'm starting that.
I think it's solid though.
And then on audio, I am listening to How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, the past, present, and future of a multi-billion-dollar franchise by Chris Taylor, which is all kinds of fun. I didn't mention
my audiobook, but that's probably the best thing.
But yeah, and that's just kind of a history of Star Wars, and really it's more of a biography of George Lucas and kind of how he came up with Star Wars and where that came from. It's a little insider baseball-y. There's some stuff in there about like colleges and early film career shit that I don't really care about. But we just got to the creation of the Wookiees. So it's on the right track. It's good stuff.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's about what I am reading, what we're all reading. So I think that about wraps it up, unless anyone has anything else.
Yeah,
all right, well,
that's it. We will put all the links below, as always, and definitely let us know what you're reading and whether you read Dragonflight and what you thought of it. We would love to know.
We would love
Definitely tweet us or leave comments. Like, we would love to know. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in a month's time.
All right. Bye, guys.